back. It would have been better if I simply used a second email account and carried a second phone, but at the time, this didn't seem like an issue.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're joined by the Malzberg panel to discuss all of this. Nothing new here from Hillary except excuses, and I think a bunch of, well, I can't say it on the television. Joining us now is Republican strategist and political analyst Ford O'Connell and president of New Heights Communication, Christy Setzer. Christy, let me ask you a question. I'm
Sure.
a technical novice. I have a BlackBerry from 6 years ago, and yet I have 3 email accounts on that BlackBerry.
Yep.
Hillary's main reason, stated reason, for not using a business account, State Department account, was because she didn't want to have to carry 2 phones for 2 email accounts. Why would one person need 2 phones for 2 email accounts?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and the answer is because the system at the State Department really is Byzantine, old school, same thing as the one at the White House. They really cannot have 2 multiple systems on the same device, and in fact, they still use BlackBerries. I think now they actually can, but while she was Secretary of State, or up till about 2012 or so, you really couldn't. And in fact, John Favreau of the White House, the former speechwriter, was tweeting during the press conference that in fact they couldn't even get Gmail on their White House computer. So that's actually wise, because it is a different system than most of the rest of us use.
Ford, is that what, is that jive?
No, it doesn't
We're
jive,
totally
but it doesn't
familiar.
really
He
matter.
probably
She
knows
was
this.
actually telling the truth when she was talking about convenience. There's a reason why she had a private server and used communications to become public unless she released them herself. And that's the bottom line. She has gotten away with this, essentially, but critics like me will never be shut up until she actually produces the server.
Guys,
Well,
look
I got
into
a feeling a lot of critics... Go ahead, Christy.
No, I'm saying look into it. It's true. The State Department has a different email system. That's really why. And if you don't believe me, you can look to Colin Powell, who, when he became Secretary of State, did exactly the same thing. He used a personal email system.
Colin Powell, excuse me.
No, he didn't. Christy, you're already changing the story.
Wait, time out.
The point is
Christy, you're
Yes,
wrong.
he did. Simply
There were new
because
rules and
the State Department
regulations.
system was so
Christy, I'm sure you know, Christy, that there were new rules and regulations in place when Secretary Clinton was Secretary of State than existed when Colin Powell. So to say they did the same thing, I don't care if they did, it doesn't fly, because she couldn't do the same thing under the law anymore.
Well, she obviously did, and it was legal. So say whatever you want. You want to say that it was unseemly,
Oh, it
or that
was?
she should have known better, of course. But everything that look, they're lawyers. Come on, like, that's her background. Do you really think that she doesn't actually know what
What's
the
that?
letter and spirit of the law is? Of course she does. Do you really think that, that again, I mean, it might have been calculating.
Christy, I have a
don't
very
know.
simple question for you. She fired an ambassador in 2012 from Kenya for, among other things, using only his own personal email. Here's the Clinton entitlement again. The rules don't apply to her. They apply to everyone else. And it's this sort of double-dealing, secret-keeping reputation that dates back to the 90s that is going to dog Hillary Clinton all throughout this. And when I combine it with the foundation, she's in some serious trouble.
So here's what I would say to that. I think that Ford is right in that that's why the optics here look bad. She might have technically done everything legally correct. She might have done the same thing that previous secretaries of state did, but it still sort of looks weird because it seems as though she was doing it because the rules didn't apply to her, right? It could very well have just been...
Christy, I think there's a real reason why the optics are bad for her. One is both of these things are A, hard to deny, and B, easy for the public to understand. You're going to have to dig a little deeper to get her out of this one, trust me on that.
In fact,
And this is going to keep going for a very long time.
It seems as though you can have multiple systems in your phone, but in fact they can't for State Department employees. So.
All right, but she was asked if she would be willing to hand the server over. And she's not willing to hand the server over. She wants us to believe her that she picked and she chose everything that's relevant, and that she would never dream of eliminating anything that might be embarrassing or irrelevant. Why is it for her to decide?
Well, I think that, she gave a very compelling response when she said, look, the vast majority of my emails were to people who also have .gov addresses, so you can see for yourself what I was emailing about.
All right, we're coming
You
back,
can't trust the
folks,
Clinton,
this
Steve. Who can you trust, my friend?
You can't trust her. It's been shown she can't be trusted, and I think she just dug herself a much deeper hole. That server will be subpoenaed, and then she's going to have to hand it over. More from the panel. Don't go away. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back with the Malzberg panel. We welcome back Ford O'Connell and Christy Setzer. I just want to finish up on the email part of it. One final word from each of you on this. So Christy, do you think this is going away now? Was this what you would have liked to have seen out of Hillary, or would you like to have seen more to make it go away?
Yeah, no, count me among the people, and I think there are many of us who would have liked to have seen her come out much, much, much sooner on this, and also to have done her due diligence in providing other people with kind of the talking points on what, on what actually really happened here. To me, as a, political operative, I would say that the biggest, scandal of all was that they knew the story was coming out for so long and didn't prep people that, that would have been willing to defend her, right out of the gate on, what exactly the story was and what the real story was. So, yeah, of course, I would have liked to have seen a lot more from her.
Ford, did Elizabeth Warren just make a phone call?
Well, Elizabeth Warren's certainly feeling better about herself. So is Martin O'Malley and the rest of the crew. Let me say this. The question here is going to be, can Republicans turn this into a theme and tie it into the foundation funding and other items about Hillary Clinton being an entitled, double-dealing, secretive candidate who has a lot to hide? That's the question. The question is whether or not the Republicans play their cards right and continue softly pushing this theme and creating doubt among voters. That is going to be the key, because Republicans have just been given second life here against Hillary Clinton. The question is, will they play their cards right or not?
Right, and Hillary was asked about the foundation and the contributions from countries that treat women poorly, and she just said, I'm so proud of this foundation. So she didn't answer that question either. Let me let you all both hear what else she said, and this was before she addressed the emails. Listen, watch.
Either these senators were trying to be helpful to the Iranians or harmful to the commander-in-chief in the midst of high-stakes international diplomacy.
Yeah, well, she knows that the former is not true, and that the latter was done out of a form of desperation because they don't believe the commander-in-chief has the best interests of the West and the United States and Israel at heart. Ford, are you surprised she waded into that?
Absolutely not. It's the other topic du jour of the day. And let me say this about the letter. Normally, I would not agree with the 47 Republican senators who did this. Herein lies the problem. This is a president, President Obama, who routinely tries to bum rush and bypass Congress's constitutional authority. And we are talking about a country, Iran, which basically openly advocates for the annihilation of Israel, our closest ally, and who on every Friday has its citizens take to the squares of Tehran and screams death to America. We need to be very cautious about this, so I'm going to give the Republicans a mulligan to keep pushing this, because I'm not sure the American public knows how dangerous Iran is and what President Obama is actually doing.
All right, Christy, accusing the Republicans of possibly wanting to be helpful to the Iranians. Is that like the New York Daily News accusing them of treason?
The New York Daily News weren't the only ones who accused them of treason. I mean, look, this is a disgusting and unprecedented move on behalf of the Republicans to go against sitting president, to ally themselves with a foreign government that we do not exactly have an alliance with.
Christy, how do they align themselves?
As he's trying to negotiate, how they've written directly to them against the sitting president. That's disgusting.
All right, let me ask you a question. We only have 30 seconds. Christy, we have 30 seconds. Christy, 30 seconds. When Nancy Pelosi went to Syria and George Bush said, don't go, and she sat there and negotiated, and then they put the headscarf on and even gave falsehoods about Israel, which Israel denounced after she said it. Was that the same thing?
No, and there's a reason why Republicans
I see. Okay,
If it
that
weren't
can't
for
be the
double
same
standards,
thing.
Democrats wouldn't have any standards, Steve.
There you go. Ford and Christy, thank you very much. Give Me Five is next, and Lanny Davis will be here in the next hour. Don't miss that one.